Okay, it's 5:25 and we'll call the Building and Grounds Committee to order. And I'm going to turn it over to Nolan and let him explain what's going on.
Okay, let's see here. So we have another property that was brought to my attention. It's at 106 North Riverside Drive. It's near the train tracks. And the rescue squad over in that area, the city doesn't have any use for it. It was just brought to my attention after we had gone through all those other properties, so. That's it. There is a nearby property owner that would be interested in it, so.
Do we own that one? The reason why we own the others because it's close to the river. Do you know why we own that property?
Don't know. Really don't know, but what I do know is that according to Ricky and the others, there's no need for it. There is, I will say, a sewer and water line going through that area, but it's going through 2 or 3 of those parcels anyways, so they're aware.
Any other questions for Nolan? Hey, do I hear a motion? I guess we have to take this to the full board, correct?
That's
Do I
right.
hear a motion to take this to the full board?
Yes, I make a motion that we take this property to the full board.
Okay, and I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Is there any other business to come before the Building and Grounds Committee? If not, we stand adjourned.
It is not the last change in that roadway out there. We've abandoned roadway.
It's 5:30.
Is it
And the Parks and Rec Committee will come to order. We'll hear from Joe Harvey for request for approval of Lori Morgan and request of a contract with Lamar Advertising.
We want to start with Lori Morgan. We'll start with the little more fun stuff. So we got an offer for a date with Lori Morgan, which that's more of a loaded statement than I expected it to sound like. But anyways, no, February 9th, it'll be the Friday before Valentine's Day. So we're thinking Lori Morgan, something in red, all plays into Valentine's Day. We'll have a big Valentine's Day celebration. She asked for enough roses on her rider to where I think it'll be, and it's all going to tie in.
Well, I can promise you, if you read that rider and you see what she wants in her dressing room,
Yeah.
she's not gonna get a date.
I've never seen sardines on a rider.
Yeah.
And there were several weird
Yeah.
jalapeno, this and that,
Yeah.
and peanut butter M&Ms. It was kind of.
Sometimes the riders are set up kind of more for like a full day festival where they're in there all day, where like, I mean, we filled out one or two of them where I took stuff home at the end of the night. I wasn't too proud for that. But they sometimes they set it up like it's going to be a bunch of people in and out and things like that. We normally we'll talk to the advanced person beforehand and we'll kind of whittle it down, like what's actually needed, what's like for a full day festival kind of thing. So, but yeah, it's taken a step up a notch. I know we're going to have to provide some in-ear monitors, which is something we haven't provided for before. So we'll have to do some rental there. It's not a huge deal, but it's things, that I've seen as us stepping forward, making progress and getting with bigger acts, saying, hey, we can do this, we can handle these requests. It's just part of the business. So
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
As I was reading through that, I know what the fees is, and then I saw what the potential return is. Is that potential return gross less fees?
you mean after you talk about like ticket fees and stuff?
Yeah.
No, that gross, that's something we've changed in the last year. We push taxes and fees to the purchaser, just like any other venue. So
So that's ROI
yes.
on the artist fee.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
'cause
yeah.
it kinda-
Sometimes it gets confused. Sometimes it's worded different in different contracts. I was working on one today where I wasn't sure if I was saying it correctly with you say the ticket price is built or the taxes are built into the ticket price, but that's at the end of the purchase, not the designated ticket price. So yeah, no, we changed it this past year, and that's been a big load off because it's something you can't always completely predict because some credit card fees are different than others, but something that I think has been really good for us to just push that all forward. And that's, what we get is the ticket price. I like it's an easier way to do math, and I'm not great at math. So, but no, we think this is going to be a good show. 90s country, really hot right now. And it's pretty cross generational, like people my age and a little younger digging on some 90s country. They do 90s country night at the Grand Ole Opry regularly. So I think it's going to be a win. PTAB was very excited about it, and yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Anybody else?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regarding Robert Earl King.
Oh, no.
Something was wrong.
But with what? Something was
What'd
wrong.
you say?
Oh, and it's
No, you said he didn't.
Oh, so yeah, you talk about him not touring anymore.
right.
Yeah, so he did he announced a retirement last year, and actually after you made the suggestion a few weeks ago, I reached out to his people. He's still listed on his booking manager website. And so before I had even read that, I reached out and said, hey, do you ever play around here? Or do you ever play venues like ours? And then I quickly responded back, like, sorry, I just found out the information that he, stopped. And then they quickly responded back and said, yeah, he's not touring anymore, but he's going to do some one-offs here and there. So
Sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be, it's a possibility. It's something we're going to put an offer in on. And if they find a date they like, I'm sure he's based out of Nashville. Or rephrase that. I'm sure he at least has a home in Nashville. But if it works out, that's another one that I did just kind of a quick scan of the advisory board this morning of what do y'all think of this? And it was one of the quickest responses I've got. They said, if you can get him, that'd be awesome. So
Great.
I know it would be a really entertaining show, so.
Sure.
But yeah, that's one we're looking at, and hopefully I'll have more news on it.
He would draw from Nashville too, I would.
Oh, I
imagine.
think so, especially if he's just doing little one-off dates here and there. I think that's potential for a lot of tourism dollars right there, which we like doing that. Anytime we can. But yeah, and we got other stuff on the horizon. We're looking at a lot of different stuff.
Okay, so for Lori Morgan, do I have a motion to send that
So
recommend that?
moved. I move that we approve the proposed contract with Lori Morgan and the fees and riders associated with that.
So do we recommend that to the full board at that
We would.
amount? Okay, and I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. On to the next item on our agenda.
Yeah,
Lamar.
so we've done some research into digital billboards. We reached out to a few different companies. In the past, the Park Theater has done business with Lamar. I'm not exactly sure how many billboards they use, but we're looking at about 4. We thought we needed a presence, of course, here, but DeKalb County, Putnam County is a nice market that we should get into, but the big one that we wanted in was Coffee County, Manchester, Tullahoma. We think that getting people to come down this way instead of hopping on the interstate is a good thing. So we thought that Lamar had the best locations, and they actually had the best pricing out of everybody that we talked to. So
You also might look in that Pelham area, because the caverns generates a lot of traffic going
Yeah.
that way, and see who, because I mean, those are concert goers,
yeah,
You
yeah.
might see what you can get out there in that area too.
Yeah, we like I know we checked into Grundy County in general. The only thing they had in Grundy County was static boards, which for us and for our budget, I feel like digital is going to be the way to go, just because we're going to be able to change it up quick, and really promote individual shows. But you're right on. That's a good spot to hit. I'll have to look and see what they have over in there. I know they had some good ones in Tullahoma. The one I think we're going to go with is actually the one at the big intersection in Manchester in next to
41.
Sonic. So yeah,
40.
yeah, we thought that was good. But the price, I kind of simplified it in the memo. $2,500. We have it in the budget. We could do that through May. But that could vary if we think it's not working. We're on a 60-day contract. That's why we need to come to you guys. So we can get out within 60 days. So we're not going to be committed ever to anything more than $5,000. So we were hoping that we'd be able to just hit just this board and not the full board, since, like I said, we're not committing to more than $5,000.
So that's 4.
Yeah, that was 4, and it's a little more complicated than that, because there's things like I can't remember which one. It might be the Chancery Street one, really busy, and we're not going to be able to get on that one immediately. Or no, it might be the one. It might be the Interstate Drive one. But anyways, there's one that we can't get on immediately, but they're going to put us somewhere else, and so we'll be on a different board. And then once that one comes available, we'll be moved to that one. So it's like I said, it's a little complicated.
But 4 boards, 2,500 a month.
Yeah, that's the goal. That was kind of I like to keep things buckshotted in general, and a little over budget actually, from what they've actually charged. If you look at the full completion of the contract, it doesn't even add up to that. So like I said, put it a little bit more in the budget than what's completely needed. But I think $2,500 a month, I think that would be a good starting place, and we'll go from there.
I'll make a motion that we approve this contract with Lamar Advertising at $2,500 a month for a 60-day contract with 4 boards, and some sites may vary back and forth based upon availability.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any more business for Parks and Rec?
Let's see, are we doing a full board read? Oh, well, not everybody's here. I was gonna say, do you want me to go ahead and got any questions about my thing in the board committee? I'd be more glad to answer those now and get by. Maybe I don't have to come back at 7 o'clock. I don't know.
I don't know. Any other business for Parks and Rec? If none, meeting adjourned.
took June 30th of 2022, so it's always a year behind. Okay, it's always a year behind. We do require employers to fund at least 100% of the actuarially determined rate. Every year you are given the option to pay more. Okay, that is a way to tackle unfunded liability. Many of our employers do this. They're able to pay above that rate. All you're doing is putting more money in your pot. Okay, that's the best way to look at it. Just put more money in your pot of money, pay down that liability quicker. We ask for those forms to be turned into us May 31st of every single year. All right, so these are the assumptions, the biggest assumptions we look at. The biggest is investment return. TCRS does not outsource our money to a private company, as many pension plans do. You probably read in the news about pension plans failing, et cetera. The TCRS is not in that boat. Aggregately, our local governments are all over 100% funded if you put them all together. But the biggest piece of what determines your contribution rate is how well we're doing in the markets. Okay. So we do that in-house. We hire folks from Wall Street. We have a trading floor in Nashville. We trade about $62 billion in TCRS money, plus other state money as well. Life expectancy is a big piece of that. They just increased the mortality assumption, the TCRS board did last year. So that obviously had some upward pressure on rates. In bad investment return years, that also gives upward pressure on rates, and good investment return years, that puts lower pressure on rates. Okay, and that will also make a little more sense here in a second. We also look at payroll growth, individual salaries, retirement behavior, when people are retiring, how long they're working. Again, our actuary does all of this. And these are the biggest pieces that go into how the actuary determines your rate every year. Here's the investment performance from 98 to current day. You see that flat line in the middle, that's our assumption, right? So we assume that we're going to return 6.75% in the market. Obviously, you can see 2008, 2009, we were way below. 2021, we had a 26% return in the market. So the idea is over a 10-year smoothing period that we hit at least 6.75%. All right, this is you all specifically. This is the city of Middle. You can see you have $3.3 million unfunded liability. We recognize them slowly. As you can see, the things with the numbers with the parentheses around them are assets. Those were good years where we issued you all some assets. People say, well, why didn't we take those assets and immediately lower your rate? Well, we're going to save those assets for times that we need them to keep your rate as flat as possible. The same reason why we're not recognizing all your unfunded liability immediately as well. So as you can see, $770,000 of that is expected to be off your books within the middle of like 3 years. Largest chunk was issued in 2021. That was based a lot on the fact that we did lower our investment return assumption and we increased the mortality assumption. But we're going to recognize that slowly over 19 years. Now, when I say 19 years, could that number shift? Yeah, we have a few really good, returns in the market. They might tackle that quicker. The actuary might tackle that liability quicker, take it and shrink that number down quicker. If you were to start paying more in your rate, you would probably see those numbers get lower a little bit quicker. So this is all public record. You can look at any TCRS entity and see all of these numbers for anything. All right, so how do we reduce the rate? Everybody who is currently a full-time employee with the city of McMinnville has to stay on the exact same plan they're in now. Okay, so I'll use myself as an example. I'm a non-contributory state employee under the legacy plan. My plan looks exactly like yours. Everybody hired after July 1st of 2014 is on the hybrid plan, which we're going to discuss in a minute. So we can't go backwards, we can go forward with these methods we'll talk about. Okay. This will potentially allow those tiers of unfunded liability to be recognized in a shorter period of time. One option is you can pay it all off, right? So it takes your rate down to 9.33% plus the administrative cost. Okay. You can pay off portions of it. Email me and say, hey, what would my rate look like if we paid off $500,000? Okay. So we have cities do that all the time. So we can always run those numbers for you. Next thing you could do for long-term planning will be switch to a contributory structure. As I mentioned, you're one of just a few in Middle Tennessee that are on a non-contributory structure. Even in the legacy plan, most employees pay 5%. Okay, and they're simply helping to fund the plan, right? It's their money and they get it back. They get it back through their retirement benefit. We pull off their contributions plus interest first. That goes pretty quick. A couple of years, that's gone. They get it back if they terminate employment. If they want to refund their money, they can. Or their beneficiaries receive it back if they pass away in service. Okay, that is the. You can put employees at a 2.5% contributory structure or a 5% contributory structure. Those are the only two options. After passage of that, they have to have notice, 6 months notice. All new hires after passage of going to a contributory structure would come in contributory. Everybody else would stay in the exact same plan they're in right now. Okay. So it's a long term, everything we're going to talk about really, except for paying off all the unfunded liabilities, is its long term, a long term look on how to slowly get your rates down. Last option will be to switch to the hybrid plan for new hires. Let's talk about who's done that in Middle Tennessee. Obviously, all teachers, all state employees, all higher ed employees, as of July 1st, 2014, are on the hybrid plan. In Middle Tennessee, we have the city of Cookeville, the city of Brentwood, the city of Lebanon, in Montgomery County, and the city of Gallatin are all on the hybrid plan. All right, so as I mentioned, that was effective for all state employees, teachers, and higher ed on 7/1/14. Optional for local governments to adopt. You all pay for your TCRS plan. It's up to you what you do with it. Okay, it is completely up to you as a governing body to decide. You do have to wait 6 months after adoption for implementation of the new plan. All right, so we call it the hybrid plan, but in reality, it's really the hybrid plans. And the easiest way to think about this is I do a lot of school presentations. We'll talk about school buses. TCRS bus, 401k bus. Okay. The state was grandfathered in back in the 80s where we are allowed to offer a 401k. Whereas you could not, as a local government, go out and get a 401k. You would have to go through the state. In 2012, the treasurer passed legislation to allow local governments to adopt the state's 401k. Over 350 have done so far. Okay. It's a very low fee vehicle for your employees because you're joining a pool of $6 billion in assets, right? The state has. So the plans are the TCRS piece and the 401k piece. The great news for employers is you're at a flat 9% rate. And again, that's only for new hires. That rate does not change. This is called the hybrid plan with cost controls. We'll talk about those cost controls here in a minute. You're putting 4% into that TCRS bus. You are overfunding TCRS. The actuary does it. You'll get a rate every year saying this is the actual true rate for the hybrid plan. I think it was 1.79% or something last year. I'll have to get those numbers for you. The extra goes into a stabilization reserve, and we'll talk about that in a minute. You're putting 5% as a non-match into the employee's 401k. The employees have a lot more skin in the game in this plan. Okay. We have a lot of help for them. We have retirement plan advisors who will meet with them as much as they want to help them do holistic retirement planning. So they're getting that as a 5% non-match, total of 9% on the employer side. Employees have to contribute 5% to that TCRS bus. Remember, that's their money. They get it back. We auto-enroll them in the 401k in the target date retirement funds. So these are the ones that go from more aggressive to more conservative. They can obviously immediately go in and change it and diversify their portfolio or sit down with one of our folks and we're licensed to give them advice and they can help them with that. They can opt out of that 2% should they choose to and still receive the 5% non-match. We have about a 90 to 94% stick rate with that 2%. We think it's important for 7% to be going in. So the members are putting 7% in. They can opt out of the 2% and just put 5% in. So if they don't opt out of the 2%, we've got 16% of total compensation going towards retirement, which is a good number. And anyone would say that. It's a great number. This is a really good plan. 5-year vesting in that TCRS bus, just like the current plan you're in now. Immediate vesting in the 401k side. That's a big advantage to employees. Why? Because sometimes you're going to hire people and they don't stay more than a couple of years, right? They're not going to vest in the TCRS side, but they get to walk away with all the 401k money. Okay, it's theirs from day one. First big change in that TCRS bus is when you can retire. So you got to work a little longer. 65 invested, or by meeting what we call the rule of 90. So that is your years of service plus your age of retirement equals 90. So you could certainly retire at 60 under this plan if you started working when you were 30. We're not going to see any 49-year-old retirees here by mid-50s as early as you can retire without a reduction. Okay. You can retire early at age 60 with a reduction invested, or by meeting the rule of 80. So years of service plus age of retirement equal 80. Next big change in that TCRS bus is your accrual factors. We see it goes from 1.575 to 1%. So 30 years of service is a 30% income replacement. Same survivorship options apply, where they can choose they can get a reduction and pay out for 2 lives. Okay. And we also pay monthly here. So it's exactly the same as a legacy plan, except for your multiplier is lower. And obviously this does not take into account all that 401k money they've been building up throughout their career. Right? Obviously the math's a lot cleaner here. Average final compensation of 50,000, what their benefit would look like, not including the 401k based on years of service. And then here's just an example. This is using a 6% annual return, which is pretty conservative. Of what your 401k would look like based on years of service. All right, so we talked about 1% formula, age of rule of 90 and age 65 invested. Employees put 5% into TCRS, employers put 4%. Employer puts 5% into the state's 401k, which you would also have to adopt. You have to adopt the 401k. And we automatically enroll the employees in. So they just get automatically enrolled. They get a letter in the mail, say, this is your plan. This is how you access your 401k. If you'd like to diversify, this is, you can do it by yourself, or you can meet with one of the retirement plan advisors that can help you and talk to them about the opt-out feature. Okay, so how do we keep that at a flat 9% for you all? Well, 5% is easy, right? That's just going in a 401k. The 4% for the pension piece, which, as we see with the legacy plan, is a moving target, right? So we're overfunding TCRS with 4%. And here are the cost controls. And we ran this through hypothetical pressure tests with the state employee population back in 2013, when the legislature was deciding this. And we ran it through the 2008-2009 financial crisis, okay? Assuming everyone was in that plan. So the first thing we would do if the actuary came back and said, hey, the rate for the hybrid plan is above 4%, we would start utilizing that stabilization reserve, which is where the extra money in between the actual rate and the 4% goes, okay? After that, they would reduce or suspend retiree COLA. After that, if that all happens, they would shift the 5% contribution into the 401k into TCRS, and the employees would get 4% TCRS. So we flip-flop those two. After that, they could increase the employee contribution from 5% to 6%. And now we're getting into kind of apocalyptic territory here. You could reduce future service accrual, or you could freeze the plan. So during that pressure test, what they had to do was they used the stabilization reserve and they suspended COLA for 1 year. They don't know what happened. And that was running it for the 2008-2009 financial crisis. This is my contact information at the bottom, and I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the floor for any questions you might have. I know this is different. When I came from the private sector to the state 14 years ago, this was all Greek to me, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
So the general idea is to drop our costs from 17% to 9%. Is that right?
Very slowly,
Right.
because everybody stays in that 17%. And you really, honestly, you would see a bell curve with those legacy people as they retire, right?
Yeah.
So you'd see it do this. And then eventually, when all of the people in the legacy plan have retired, deceased, and potentially their beneficiaries deceased, that legacy pool will be gone. So the state is right now, just now at the point where we have about the same amount of hybrid employees as legacy employees, and that's slowly going to do this. Okay, so it would only affect new hires only. So long-term outlook, yes, it would, that is the idea.
So just to make sure I understand this,
Sure.
if we hired someone that came from Coffee County,
Sure. Great
okay,
question.
they're not eligible in this because they're vested in the legacy plan, correct?
Think of it, remember, think about it as buckets of money. You move into whatever bucket, whatever plan that bucket has, so. I can move freely around state, higher ed. If I decide to get my teacher's license, I'm a legacy teacher. But I'm also an attorney, so say I took a job in the city of Brentwood, I'm gonna step out of my legacy bucket and I'm gonna step into the hybrid bucket. And I'm gonna have split benefit when I retire.
Okay, so they can get from, they can
Yeah.
be in, okay.
So I get
wanted-
14 years without legacy calculation, and however many years I work, in a hybrid structure, at that hybrid calculation, and we just combine it in one check.
So I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't some type of grandfather situation if we were to hire someone from another city.
The only situation you would see that in is if you had maybe someone here who vested under your legacy plan. Let's say they went to the county and came back, they're gonna come back in under the legacy plan here. Because they vested in the legacy plan here initially. Okay. Questions?
It's drinking from a fire hose. I mean, I understand the goal. About that, and it's only for new employees. Should we elect to do it? It's only for new employees. It doesn't affect anybody that's here. But the people that are here can elect to contribute to a 401k.
Yeah, oh yeah,
They have that available to them too.
they can do that now. If you
Right, well, I'm just making sure that that's not,
Absolutely.
it's not a carrot out there to do, okay.
Now it'd be their own money. They wouldn't be getting
Right,
that
right.
5%.
I understand,
And your part timers would have access to the 401k.
I understand, okay. Well, I think I'm satisfied with the information that I need on.
I mean, the idea is to hire the best possible employees that we can. And it seems like, I mean, at me at 57, I like the plan we have, but from what I understand, a lot of young people coming in are not as interested in that. So if you could eventually save some money over a lower percentage, then you might be able to pay a little more and attract a better, I mean, I guess that's the idea.
Yeah, and they're able, again, I think we're seeing it across all sectors. Maybe they don't stay as long, right? That will pop around the private sector back and forth. They get to take the 401k money with them. Gives them some real skin in the game in terms of their personal retirement planning. We see a great increase in one-on-one retirement counseling meetings, what we call retirement readiness reviews, which all of your employees have access to. And just a lot more planning from the get-go. That's the hope. Because we want them to, this is how we're, retire ready is our whole thing. And we want every employee to be able to retire at 100% of what they're making. And it's possible. If they start early enough and if they take advantage of all the education that we can provide them.
The whole unfunded liability thing's a little confusing to me. Is that what, when I would hear you say unfunded balance, is that the same thing, that you meant? Yeah. I mean, I kind of understand it, but it's.
And we have some employers that don't have any unfunded
What?
liability. It just depends.
That does bring one question in mind that I wrote down. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe that you said that at some point in time, we have some unfunded liability rolling off our books.
In 3 years, you've got 770,000 going off. Now, that's not to say they won't issue another tier of unfunded liability. It's also not to say they might issue you a tier of assets, which you've got a couple of those as well.
Well, I'm a little bit, I'm stupid, I'll just tell you. So, I know what an unfunded liability is. I got a bunch of them myself. So help me understand that, that rolls off of us, particularly, but is that something that's blanket across the state at the same time? It's divvied up?
Different for every single employer. But
Okay,
again, we have some employers, right, who maybe have let's just say an 11% contribution rate to TCUS. They elect to pay us 20% every year. I've got one employer that has a 0% rate because they paid so much above and they just kept filling their pot of money. It's the best way to look at it. So they have assets that we will use to keep the rate as low as possible in downtimes.
so we have, just to be sure that I don't, well, I'm just stupid, I told you. So we have basically at some point, we've underfunded this.
No, you've always paid what the actuary determined for you to be able. that you need to pay to fund it. Again, the money is there for the employees,
Okay,
but we're always going to, the actuary, depending on what the market conditions. If we don't hit those investment benchmarks, unfunded liability will come into play and assets will come into play.
Okay,
Those can change.
so that's
It's very
ROI.
fluid.
So we, at some point in time, the ROI missed the benchmark and that creates the delta that is known as unfunded liabilities. Okay,
And we
got it,
tackle it slowly.
okay.
So
I got
we
you.
want to keep your rate as flat as
So
possible.
if the market does good, the unfunded liability goes down.
Yeah, so I mean, let's just say we had a really good market year, say we did another 26% year, right? Maybe that $1.2 million in unfunded that we're gonna recognize over nine.
Sorry.
That we're gonna recognize. Yeah, that maybe this large 1.2 million that we're gonna recognize slowly over 19 years, we have a really good market year. The actuary is gonna say, let's tackle some of that. Let's take that 19 maybe down to 12. And that's how it works. So they do the tiers of the unfunded liability in order to keep your rate is we don't like seeing huge peaks and valleys in rates.
And I want to ask another stupid question. As you mentioned, you have some government units that have paid in more. And so,
A lot.
if someone has a surplus of funds, this would be a good place to do it because in the lean years, your contribution would be less. So it's a savings plan for the future. In other words, okay, I just want to be sure I
Yeah,
understood
It's
that.
not a bad place to put it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And even if you were to switch to the hybrid plan again, you'd always have that legacy number that keeps moving. So you could always attack the legacy plan, in chunks or by paying above the rate.
All right, that's great information.
So we will provide you, whatever you all decide as a governing body, we will provide you with the resolutions that you need. In terms of whether you want to go to a contributory legacy structure, if you want to switch to the hybrid plan. Or if you just want to adopt the 401k plan just in general and just keep what you got going on now. We provide all this for you.
Well, I think, since Rachel's not here tonight, we probably need to take this information and then have another committee meeting with her where we can be sure she's up to speed. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think there was any intended anything to vote on.
Okay, I
first.
just wanted to make sure that.
Definitely informational. Libby and I have met on this many, many times. She could have spoken to this just as well as I could by now, I'd say. So you all have this presentation. Feel free to just share this amongst yourselves. It's yours to have for sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Again, my contact information at the end. If you think of anything that you didn't ask tonight, feel free to email me. That's my cell phone number. Call me.
Thank you very
That was
much.
very good.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to come before the finance committee? We stand adjourned.
Open a public hearing to hear comments on the annexation for property located at 521 Pike Hill Road in McMinnville. If anyone in the audience is here to address this subject, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. Hearing no comments, we will consider this public hearing closed. We'll open a public hearing to hear comments regarding amending multiple sections of the city's zoning code ordinances.
Blanket. Well, actually, we have a board member in stress, you know. I mean, she's not complaining about it, but there's females here that understand it since I live with a female that suffers from that.
Appreciate your understanding.
Hearing no comments, we'll consider this public hearing closed. and Alderman. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
Sally Brock,
Present.
Deidre Dunlap,
Present.
Stacy Harvey,
Present.
Steve Harvey,
Here.
Carrie Morton,
Here,
Mayor Chastain,
Present.
Rachel Kirby's absent.
The next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. Each member of the board should have received those in their agenda packet. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with their reading and approve them as read.
So moved.
Motion by Miss Sally Brock,
second.
second by Miss Carrie Morton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 3 is recognition of visitors. There are none for this evening. Item 4 is recognition of employees. We have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to give recognition to an employee, come on up.
I would like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Frank, thank you for getting some asphalt at the intersection of Clark Boulevard and West End. Now, some asphalt.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully, the first of the next month, they will come.
It has helped
Really?
tremendously,
Yeah,
that little
it
bit.
absolutely has. And, I was in deep trouble over that. So thank you. That did help. My wife spilled her coffee in her lap. That wasn't good.
I didn't bring it with me, but we received our certificate from the comptroller's office about adopting our budget last year on time. We recognize at TGFOA the past week conference I was at, and they just recognize all the cities each year that adopt theirs on time. When it's accurate, everything is in order. So I just wanted to say thanks to everyone on the board and to all of our department heads for working to get all of that done during the spring. I know it's a lot on everyone, so it's good to be recognized whenever those things come through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business. Does any member of the board have any unfinished business this evening? Oh, I went right by communications. There is a proposal from Main Street, McMinnville, to host the downtown trick or treat with downtown businesses. This is scheduled for October 31st. Looks like it should last from 2 to 6. And Sean, I'll let you.
Yeah, so the application is in order and we didn't receive any concerns or anything with the proposal. It is proposed at 6. We're gonna leave it that way, but they're hoping to be wrapped up closer to about 5:30. If so, the road will be open at that time.
All
Might be
right.
a little bit earlier, but we're gonna keep it at 6 just in case.
Any questions for community development?
Is that actually on the 31st?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter from Main Street.
So moved.
Motion by Miss Deidre Dunlap,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Again, item 6 is petitions. There are none. Does any member of the board have any unfinished business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Any new business for the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2229 to authorize the statewide contract for a 2022 John Deere 4052M tractor, the amount of $33,000 in accordance with the specifications of the City of McMinnville Parks and Recreation Department, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Carrie Morton. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Carrie Morton,
Yes,
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9B is resolution number 2230 of the City of McMinnville to affirm the action taken by Mr. Joe Harvey to negotiate a contract with Daly and Vincent, and for the city administrator to sign the contract on behalf of the city and to set the date for this resolution to become effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Miss Sally Brock,
Second.
second by Mr. Stacy Harvey. Any questions for Mr. Joe Harvey? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Carrie Morton,
yes,
Mayor Chastain.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 9C has been deferred to our next meeting. We will hear about that later on. Item 10 is ordinances. Item 10A is ordinance number 1863, which is to establish a fine schedule for businesses that sell alcohol to minors. and to set the date for the ordinance to become effective. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Mr. Steve Harvey. I know this was sent back a couple of times. It appeared that there were some discrepancies in some of the information that we had received. So again, we did defer that to this meeting so that we could have time to get what I'm assuming is the correct information before the board. Mr. Hoover, would you come up here, please? This is what we have before us tonight in the form of ordinance number 1863. Is this what was passed by the beer board to come to us?
That is true.
All right. And is this,
If it's what we have here, I wasn't there,
okay,
so I can't really speak to it, but
okay,
if that's what the quorum said, then that's what the quorum said.
okay.
For the record, I compared the notes taken at the beer board meeting for the recorder and compared it to this proposed ordinance, and they conform in all respects.
Okay. All right. Well, it appears what was in our agenda packet for tonight is what was officially passed by the beer board to be approved by this board. So we do have a motion and a second. Is there any questions, discussions?
How often is this revisited? Is it ever revisited?
Not that I know of.
This is the first time that we've ever done
I think it just has to be brought up.
You could do whenever you wanted to, I guess.
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
How often do you have people that are like fined? I mean, is this?
It's rare. I've been on there for several years and I
Okay.
think we've only had 2 violations.
Okay.
So it's not a,
Pretty, this last time we had more than two.
yeah, I'm talking about,
Two incidences where we had a sting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we don't know about the stings until the detectives tell me there was a sting. That's when we know.
And this is much more than what the fines were before. Is that correct?
Well, we have a suspension now, whereas we didn't have that before. It was just.
they're
escalating
harsher
fines.
and we scaled down the termination that Stacy had proposed, but they are harsher than they were.
Okay,
That's true.
thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap.
Aye.
Stacy Harvey.
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Carrie Morton.
Yes,
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10B is ordinance number 1864, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend multiple chapters and sections of Title 14 of the official zoning code of the city of McMinnville to add provisions as outlined in Exhibit A and to set the time when this ordinance shall become effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Steve Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Sally Brock. Any questions for community development?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I was asked by Alderman Harvey at the last meeting to collaborate with community development and Nolan with regard to definitions of manufactured houses and mobile homes.
Modular systems bill.
I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Had COVID in the interim. So if I would ask if board pleases to defer this to the next meeting so we can have that discussion.
So that section has been removed. And so this is a completely different ordinance, but that section being removed until we can collaborate on that. And then make any changes and go back to the planning commission if necessary. So that's not a part of the ordinance that's in front of you. We scrapped that first ordinance that was tabled at the last meeting. And so this is just the other 4 sections.
Well, thank you for that. And I do want to state just for the record that this is also in this ordinance that covers the reduction of R2,
Yes,
the lots of that. I own property in that district that's vacant. I intend to build on, so I'm gonna have to abstain from voting on that. I think that's the prudent thing to do, and I'm not doing that because I have a problem with anything that you're saying. That's just a conflict of interest for me to put forth any effort on that.
Now so Sean, this is the second and final reading. So if we amended that ordinance,
We'll have to take it back to first reading in the new ordinance. So we'll have to put that on the next meeting.
and is it time sensitive?
I thought we deferred that on the last meeting to allow, because it was all inclusive, and I may be wrong, because it was all packaged together. And I asked for it to be tabled at that meeting, so Mr. Purtle could have time to meet and confer. I didn't think that we took any action on that at that previous meeting.
That is correct. No action was taken because you had questions on that. And so it got tabled. Based upon that, I wanted to scrap that ordinance, remove that section.
So
So that can be discussed and then represent these other four. So this would convert it to.
So this would be the first reading
Yes.
for this, absent the manufacturer
Absent the
home
manufacturer,
nomenclature.
yes.
Okay, so that's just a minor typo.
Yeah, it does say in the minutes that Mr. Stacy Harvey suggested that Mr. Pearl investigate this, get back to the board, and it was deferred to a later date.
So this would be first reading for this particular motion here. So that's really the only clarification that we need to make, is this is not the second, this will be the first.
We'll
If we need to table it, I mean, then
we'll just bring it back.
Okay.
At the next meeting. That way, all of the paperwork is official and matched up.
And I'm sorry I messed that up for everybody, but I really wanted us to get that right.
No, we're good. I
I
agree
didn't
with
mean to
that.
cause any confusion.
So if there's any confusion, like I said, I should try and remove that to get this other. moving.
With that, and thank you very much for doing that.
No worries.
Item 10C is ordinance number 1865, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville to amend the McMinnville Tourism Development Authority bylaws substantially in the form attached to this ordinance as Exhibit A, adding under Board of Directors, and I quote, "a director nominated and elected by the Warren County Commission will set the date when this ordinance shall become effective." This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Ms. Deidre Dunlap. Any discussion on this ordinance? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Carrie Morton,
Yes,
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. And item 10D, I've been asked to defer to our next meeting as well. Item 11 is departmental reports. We have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to address the board, come on up. Mr. Ming, do you have anything?
I do not.
Mr. Purtle, do you have anything? Any announcements for the board?
This is an announcement, but Rachel and I will be graduating from our Citizens Fire Academy next Thursday night. Not this
Congratulations.
Thursday night, but the next Thursday night. So I think it'll be graduation and a barbecue cookout. So anyway, it's been fun. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. If there's nothing else to come before the board, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you all.